Okay, hi guys, I'm back again. So, continuing with our tradition of biopsy lecture per month. So, we were talking about eosinophilic gastroenteritis, and I told you about the chemotactic agents involved and the basic pathogenesis of the disease. So let's today go to the microscopy. See, I keep the lectures very short and just 10 slides because no one is interested in listening to long lectures. And since they are always there on my channel, none of the lectures are discussions are deleted. So you can always access whenever you want to access. And these are short small, very small lectures in small parts. So I think it makes it easier to retain also. That is why I try to break up the lectures into 2 or 3 parts. Okay. So we had talked about how the eosinophilic inflammation in the gut GI system occurs, what are the reasons it can occur, the allergic processes, etc., and what are the chemokines in the chemicals involved in, the entire process of eosinophilic inflammation occurring in the gastrointestinal system. So the symptomatology of eosinophilic gastroenteritis or a cow milk protein allergy or anything related is same as any other, abdominal infection or inflammatory bowel disease, etc. So you'll have abdominal pain, vomiting, diarrhea, failure to thrive, dysphagia. Protein losing enteropathy is found out on diagnosis. So clinically, the child will appear malnourished. So that is how you can, maybe think that this could be that. Anemia, hypoalbuminemia, there will be loss of protein, etc., due to allergic process. And this is more of an investigative finding. Anemia, of course, an examination finding. But mostly, if I can combine all these symptomatologies in a nutshell, there's always failure to thrive and features of malabsorption in any form of pediatric gut disease. Okay, so always keep that in mind when you get GI biopsies to interpret in your exams or practical, or when you are, sitting as a pathologist at a private or government center. Atopy. So atopy is idiopathic or unknown allergies which occur in you because and you cannot trace it to your family. You cannot establish a cause, and that is what atopy is. 75% of us are suffering from atopy with this kind of weather, the pollution levels, the things that we are consuming. Atopy is very common. Food allergy is very common. Family history is not there in all the cases. Maybe some of them will show. And of course, if you investigate, you'll get an elevated IgE levels. So basically, whenever you're working up a suspected case of eosinophilia in the gut, where you feel this could come out to be an allergic, like an eosinophilic gastroenteritis or a cow milk protein allergy or something like that, you get a CBC for eosinophil count, because a lot of times your peripheral blood eosinophil is also increased. This supports your diagnosis. Of course, whenever there is eosinophils, parasitic infestations, allergies are the first thing that come in mind. So you do a stool for ova and parasite. Endoscopy you do as we go ahead. Serum Ig you can do, and allergen testing very rarely done because it is expensive, and that entire panel may not have all the allergens in it. Okay. So of course, eosinophils are present normally also. That is why last time I told you, and I'll show you this time, that there are cutoffs. There are certain cutoffs, like above 15 is pathogenic, pathognomonic. Below 15 it is not. So above 15 does not mean if it is 16 it is pathognomonic. What it means to say is that if your eosinophil cutoff somewhere should be between 15-16, and that is normal there. Why is it normal there? It is normal there because when we are consuming food or something like that, what happens is that your gut mucosa stays inflamed because there is mild inflammation. There may be mild reactions to the foreign substance that you are consuming inside in your body. Fine, but as long as it is controlled, as long as it is mild, you'll have some eosinophils naturally in that area. But when that goes out of control, when the allergic reaction becomes too much, and that does not happen with everyone, it happens in people who have atopy or people who are prone to have it, then that becomes a problem. That is why normal lamina propria in the gastrointestinal system in different areas will show presence of some or the other cutoff of eosinophils, and this has been observed over long periods of time. So hence it says physiological presence of eosinophils is reversible with an gastrointestinal eosinophilia. So when normal eosinophils are present, you are normal, nothing is happening, and if you are prone, you take cow milk, and if I have protein allergy to cow milk protein allergy, that inflammation will flare up, more eosinophils be attracted. So when, and I'll have diarrhea, vomiting, failure to thrive, and so on and so forth. So when a biopsy is done, you will see more than the usual cutoff of eosinophils in that area. And that is how I diagnose, okay, this case has cow milk protein allergy. So I'll show you all the cutoffs. So it can be a primary eosinophilia, a hereditary eosinophilic syndrome, or due to some other cause like a parasite, etc. Okay. So the endoscopy may be normal even when you have allergy, depends on whether you are having an acute attack or not, or what is the degree of attack which is occurring in you. So it is a very variable thing, the endoscopy finding. Involvement may be patchy. Extreme cases may show edema, nodularity, ulcers, and etc. and redness, that is erythema, on endoscopy. Okay. So always remember, if you're diagnosing something with eosinophilia, the diagnosis depends on eosinophil density, that is the cutoff, the number of eosinophils per high power field. The distribution, where it is, it should not go in the muscularis, it should stay in the lamina propria. So if you're seeing a transmural eosinophilia, then you have to think it is not normal. You will get degranulated eosinophils. You can see it by toluidine blue. And of course, surrounding tissue might show edema. If it is long-standing dissolving kind, maybe some fibrosis, congestion, other inflammatory cells. So you need to diagnose it as a in toto, as a complete diagnosis. Okay. Histological features: dense eosinophilic infiltrate. See, eosinophil in lamina propria below the cutoff is normal. If eosinophils occur in the lining epithelium, if they go to submucosa muscularis layers or to the serosa, if there are more than 6 eosinophil aggregates in a lamina propria forming an microapsis, if there is eosinophilic cryptitis, matlab crypt epithelium you will see in the epithelial lining eosinophil, and there are degranulated eosinophils, then these are warning signs. Simple eosinophils lying in lamina propria singly scattered is not a problem if they are below the cutoff. So in stomach, esophagus more than 15 is pathognomonic, stomach more than 25. You know, these cutoffs have revised now. So I remember it like this: as you go from up to down, the number of eosinophilic cutoff increases. So basically these are revised now. I think these are old, I did not notice them. So remember something like that: if you are in the rectum, sigmoid colon, up to 60 eosinophils are normal. If you are, so you can forget whatever is written over here. So if it is the mid intestine, up to say 30 eosinophils are normal, 30 to say 30, 35. If it is the upper GI, 15 to 25 eosinophils are normal. Anyway beyond that, and with cryptitis, degranulation, etc., then you think of a allergic or eosinophilic disorder. Okay, so these have been revised, so just don't look at this. Okay, so here you see ulceration. This is the esophagus, this is eosinophilic abscess in the lining epithelium, and they are neutrophils also. Here lamina propria, you see collection of eosinophils. They're looking very red, they're not RBCs, they are eosinophils. Collection, so so this much eosinophil is abnormal, and you can make out this is large intestine. Okay, and these are the crypts with the goblet cells. See, this is cryptitis. In the lining you see eosinophils going, in the epithelium eosinophilic cryptitis, and then see so many eosinophils, full of eosinophils. These are abnormal eosinophils. Okay. So the serosal and the muscular involvement, a cause of alarm, means it's an active eosinophilic inflammation which needs to be reported rather than normal eosinophilic population. What are the differentials? Parasites, drug reactions. GVHD is one thing in drug reactions. Inflammatory bowel disease. IBD ka close mimicker is eosinophilic gastroenteritis, and you get eosinophils and IBD also. So I'll tell you when I'm discussing the differentials in detail that we see the cutoff of eosinophils as well as how much eosinophilic cryptitis and cryptapsis is there to actually diagnose an IBD from eosinophilic gastroenteritis. GERD, I showed you in esophagus with eosinophils. But there should be neutrophils also to call it GERD, and there are some some specific points to diagnose a GERD. Okay, celiac disease, sometimes, not always. In lymphocytes are more important, and hereditary eosinophilic syndrome where mutational analysis and peripheral blood eosinophilia should also be kept in mind. Okay. So for today, just this much. Tomorrow, next time, next video that I make, I will be discussing differentials, and then from there on, we'll be moving ahead with the next topic. So thank you, and I hope this small talk was fruitful.